I might keep this in the show. I really might put this in the beginning of the show.
Hey, can you guys keep it down a little bit?
Oh, we got him. We've been trying to get it.
I'm recording a video. Can you guys keep it down a little bit?
Trying to do this for 25 minutes.
Thank you. You see a little bit? I'm recording a video. I'm working doing a video. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh my God. I'm keeping it. I think that's going to be the intro. I think I might just let that the intro of the podcast. So if you guys are seeing this, there you go. All right, guys, what's going on? I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. Welcome back to Hero Report, which is part of TarHeal247.com. And as you guys seen, because I decided to keep that intro in right there, we've been trying to get some of the incredible workers. They do great work, keep the Smith Center clean afterwards. Fantastic work that they do in there. Just trying to get them to quiet down for about the last 25 minutes. It's not really been 25, but it might as well have been 25 minutes the way it feels. But AJ finally got to him. AJ, heck of a performance by you. Almost as impressive as North Carolina's win over Georgetown. That was good
like
stuff right there.
Rumble of women.
Yes.
Who can out story tell the other?
Yes. And very loud vocally.
With
very loud vocally.
With a high pitch being the number one part of the mission.
Yeah, like I said, halfway through three things, I thought someone was like about to fight each other, somebody in the background.
This was in terms of out high pitching one another, this was elite Caleb Wilson, Henry Vessar type quality performance.
Just high, low, high pitching. Yeah, man. Just absolutely perfect.
They work hard. They're very nice. I finally got there. Yeah. I understood doing a video. So we'll get in and out pretty quickly. We survived it doing the three things Sunday. So we're doing a second video afterward right now. And so at least nobody's like slamming stuff.
Oh yeah, AJ, I'll take high pitch yelling.
Just flying ahead.
I'll take high pitch yelling over those projectile missiles. It sounds like they're hitting us when they're doing the bleachers. So yeah, we got to count our blessings tonight, man. We're finding a way. We're pushing through it. But yeah, we're gonna rifle through this one because who knows how long they're going to stay quiet. And we appreciate them for staying quiet. But
very much because they're working too. So
yeah, absolutely. Who are we to tell them to quiet down for a second, right? But
you're Jacob Turner.
Yeah. That just pulls a lot of weight in Chapel Hill.
I'll tell him I know Jacob Turner. He asked you guys to keep it down.
They'd be like, all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, all right. Whoever that is. Never heard of that guy in my life. But yeah, we want to do a separate podcast real quick and just talk about kind of Carolina's last four games. It started with St. Bonaventure and ended with Georgetown on Sunday night. And I think when you look at it, the reason we started to do a podcast is you're looking at those four teams and saying, those are four legitimate, with one team pretty much already being in with how Michigan State season is going, and maybe even Kentucky, despite them not having the greatest of starts to the year. You're looking at these four of these teams and saying, these are, if not all of them, at least I would say at the bare minimum, AJ, at the end of the year, bare minimum. Two of these four teams are going to be NCAA tournament teams. I think it'll be more than that. But Carolina's coming through this stretch, 3-1. St. Bonaventure's 9-1 on the season right now. You're looking at Michigan State. I know they lost to Duke. They're 8-1. And then you look at the combined records of these last four teams that Carolina's played, 28-9. So Carolina's come through this stretch of tough games, I think, as we mentioned in three things, feeling pretty good about where they're at right now. I know the Michigan State blip was the only blip there, but as we've talked about previously, it felt like Carolina learned so much from that game that you're kind of looking back on it and saying, you don't want to lose to anybody, but Carolina lost that game and has learned from it and shown some growth over the last few games in particular. So, yeah, I think the last four games have been the toughest stretch of the season for sure for North Carolina to date. And I think you're looking at it, and I think if somebody asked you beforehand, 4 games coming up, would you take 3-1? I think a lot of Carolina fans would say, absolutely, man. So talk to me about these last 4 games, AJ, and, kind of what you think the Tar Heels have maybe learned through the first, I would say, tough stretch of the season.
I wouldn't call Michigan State a blip because of what they learned.
In what way?
Well, because of what they learned. I thought they took it to Michigan State in stretches. And played really, really well. And they saw that was a perfect film game. That was a coach's dream. When you do it this way, here's the result. When you do it this way, here's the result. You need to be this a lot more than this. And we said that night or sometime around then, I said, Carolina's not going to get beefier, but they can get nastier. And they saw what good nasty can do against Michigan State in stretches because they played very well in stretches, and they saw what bad nasty happens when you don't have enough nasty, and that's why they lost that game. Henry cited it to me after the Georgetown game when I was talking to him about this stretch, and he said they learned so much from the Michigan State game. And you could just see it. You could, the fortune of being courtside at Fort Myers because of the setup and one of the few places we could actually be right next to the action. You can see what they needed to get from it and what they did get from it. And you got to credit the coaching staff because they picked apart the right things and they squeezed in a positive the right things, and they kind of put it together. And that's what you saw at Rupp Arena when they were able to come through it and won that game. And that's what you saw Sunday against Georgetown by taking out Georgetown's best player, not letting the team run their actions, being fantastic defensively. Georgetown misses 16 of the last 18 shots. Carolina closes 35-18, and they beat a good Big East team by 20 points. Mm-hmm. They didn't beat Navy or Radford by 20. They beat Georgetown by 20. You can draw a direct line to those two games and say, oh, yeah, lots of growth here. This is pretty damn obvious. So they went up against NCAA tournament caliber teams. I think St. Bonaventure, the A10 is pretty good. The top half of the A10 is pretty good. There's a lot of
great start.
The problem is nobody will play the A10 that much anymore, so they don't have as many opportunities to get some great wins to really enhance the net and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think that St. Bonaventure, they're going to win more than 20 games. They're going to be a factor in that conference, and Carolina fans should pay attention because if they end up a top 50, that's a Q1, but very least they'll be a Q2, I think. The win at Kentucky's going to be a Q1. Kentucky's going to be, I'm not going to say going to be fine, but they're a lot more talented.
They'll figure it out in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, what that means, I don't know, but
everybody, look,
figure it out. Yeah,
a week, 8 days before Gonzaga blitzkrieg Kentucky, Gonzaga lost to Michigan by 40. Mm-hmm. This stuff is, look, Purdue lost by 23 at home to Iowa State the other day.
I know.
This stuff is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is a refined product yet. So Kentucky's just kind of hitting a really ugly stretch now, but there's so much time left. They have talent. I think they're going to be fine. They're going to win games. The SEC's not as tough as it was a year ago. They're going to win games that lead. They're going to get healthier. They're not healthy. So, and I do think that Carolina played a pretty decent Kentucky team. They played a better Kentucky team than Gonzaga did. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, teams are different each night. Obviously, Pittsburgh beat Ohio State last week. Pittsburgh Sunday lost at home to Hofstra. Before beating Ohio State, they lost at home to Quinnipiac or somebody. So they were clearly a better team against Ohio State.
Yeah.
So if you're like the Ohio State fan, you're like, man, how they lost to a team that lost to those two? Okay, well, they were really good against you because they have good players and they have a head coach who's done a good job at times before. So I think for Carolina, these 4 games are really, really, really healthy games for them. We got a lot where they were to learn. I think 3 of the 4 were physical teams. So I was
going to say that, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They got a lot out of being physical. They're playing through contact. Luka had a couple drives Sunday where the ball got to the rim. One time he scored. He's adapting, and you're not going to adapt to be the team that they want to be with their stated mission. You're only going to learn so much against Navy and Radford and those guys. You're going to learn against these other ones. Now what they got coming up with a couple of the Patsies that they're playing, it's opportunities to get some other dudes playing time. It's opportunities to get some confidence with the perimeter going. It's opportunities for Hubert to maybe have a more extended look at Kyan and Derek in the backcourt at the same time. Maybe Jaron playing more 4. I think Jaron ought to get a little look at the 5 some as a backup 5. They can run their whole offense with him as a 5. So it gives that opportunity, and they could go into it now knowing a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. They have a week with exams coming. They have a lot of practice time coming up. There's no NCAA limitation on how much time they can spend together once final exams are over. So it's going to be a wonderful period for these guys to kind of get in the classroom, so to speak, go at it. And then when they come out on the other end and it's ACC time, December 30th with Florida State here, guess who's going to be in uniform? Seth. So this is a very important stretch coming up, but I think its importance is an elevation thing because of what they just did in the previous 4. It's not we got a lot to fix. I think they have a lot of improving to do, but I don't think they have a whole boatload of stuff to fix. Mm-hmm. They can improve. So fixing is trying to get this to point 1, right? I think they're like at 0.4 and 5 with a lot of what they are. The objective is, if you're playing the first Monday in April, you want to be at like 0.9 and a half that night, right? So I think they're on a nice track. And this is an opportunity to get better in certain areas, refine certain things. I think they need to work on the press a little bit. I see a lot of the dribble getting picked up a little too much. Now, Luka doesn't look super comfortable against the press yet, the full court press. So they're going to play athletic teams. They're going to throw that at them. I'd like to see them get a little better there. I think they need to do a little bit better job of some of the inbounds plays. Kyan has got to stop picking up dribble so much, picks it up way too early. For the guards, they got to start seeing creases and going through them. These are things that can be emphasized. And what we're looking at is all these kinds of things they need to get better at, and they can get better at, but they still went 3-1 with a very valuable loss to Michigan State, a game that was 3 points with 7 or 8 minutes left, or whatever it was. Yeah. So, and remember, that was without Seth. They've done all this without him. So, and we're seeing voices emerge. Seth was a voice. People wonder, where's the voice going to come from? Henry Vasar's voice projects.
Yeah.
Caleb Wilson's voice projects. You're going to get some stuff from Derek Dixon a little bit. Jaron Stevens is not a big talker, but he kind of plays in a way where like there's some voice now. We saw more physicality from him against Georgetown. We saw, I think he hit a 3 and missed a couple, but they were very confident looking shots. So I really like how they came through this, and I like what they have in front of them and how they can get better. And I think people should have faith in this staff and Hubert and his staff to get better in those areas, because they identified every nook and cranny for the Michigan State game, and they're better in all those areas now. They were better against Kentucky and better against Georgetown in those areas.
You hear them a little bit. It's not too bad back there. I've heard worse. I've heard worse. It definitely was worse before we hit record on this one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact the thing that I just keep thinking about, as you mentioned, is just the fact that they're doing without Seth Trimble, and not only a positive of getting him back, you're getting that kind of senior captain leader on the team. You know, he's been extremely vocal as when he's been out on the sidelines. He looks like a coach sometimes over there, the way some of his mannerisms and stuff. But you know, you get him back, and in a way, it also makes your bench stronger, because you're moving, you know, one of the likes of a Stevenson or Luka, whoever it ends up being, back to the bench. You know, just Trimble slides in the lineup, and you know, the bench being, I think, still a question mark in some areas, and you're upgrading that in a certain way, shape, or form too. So, I think the biggest positive for Carolina is you're coming through this 4-game stretch against NCAA tournament caliber teams without one of your best players, without one of your leaders on this team, one of your best defensive players as well, and you're coming through 3-1. And I don't think Carolina's been anywhere near the best version of itself. And that in itself is a positive too, AJ, because if we're sitting here like, man, Carolina's playing some really good basketball in late November, December, I'm not sure they can play much better than this. That's not really the conversation you want to be having in a lot of different ways. So I think this 4-game stretch, despite the loss to Michigan, which Carolina learned a lot from, as we've talked about, has been an absolutely positive one for them. And you look at the next 4 and what's coming up: South Carolina, Upstate, East Tennessee State, Ohio State, and Atlanta in the CBS Sports Classic. That will be a tricky one. And then East Carolina before ACC play starts. I mean, you're looking at this next 4, as we talked about earlier this week, and saying there's no reason in the world Carolina shouldn't be 12-1 going into ACC play against Florida State on December 30th. So I just think there's a ton of positives to take away, and I am very intrigued, especially with the emergence of Derek Dixon in recent weeks, especially with the continued play of Henry Vasar and Caleb Wilson, some of the other guys that have stepped up a little bit. I am incredibly intrigued to see what this team looks like when Seth Trimble comes back into the mix, man, because you look at it and say, I don't think he disrupts anything Carolina's doing. I think if anything, he just elevates them and takes them again to another level, and we'll see what that looks like when the time comes.
I talked to Seth a couple of weeks ago during warm-ups when I was just asking him how he's doing and stuff. And we were talking about him coming back and how he's the kind of player that won't really kind of get in the way. And he said, no, he says, I'll just fit right in, because what he gives you, quite frankly, are some things they don't have. Yeah. He gives them elite athleticism. This is not a supremely athletic team. They had 2 fast break points against Georgetown. They had 6 against Kentucky. Mm-hmm. This is a club that's not going to out transition people, which is why they have to be great on the offensive glass. We talked about at Rep Arena. You got to get production off the offensive glass so you can snag some of those possessions there that you're not going to get in transition. So that's one thing. The other thing that Seth does is he takes them, I think he makes them a potentially I don't want to say elite defensive team, but they get close. Look at what we talked about in the three things about how they defended Georgetown. Look at what they did late with Kentucky. They had some stretches with Michigan State where they weren't running a lot of stuff. They took St. Bonaventure out of what they were doing. The big kid for St. Bonaventure didn't get touches in the stretch, and the guard Carlson didn't get a lot of good touches that comfortable touches. It's one that you can get touches, but if you're not getting comfortable touches,
yeah, it's a big difference.
That you can do something with it, then a touch is a touch. I can get the ball at mid-court and get a touch, but I can't do anything with it there. Mm-hmm. That's not in someone's zone. So they kept some of the guys from St. Bonaventure getting touches in the right zone for stretch against Michigan State. Obviously, a long time against Kentucky. Even I remember some people were saying stuff about, well, Kentucky missed a lot of open shots. I said, but look who was taking them. Look at where they were taking them, and at what point in those half-court possessions they were taking them. You can have an open shot, but if the defense identifies, I want that guy shooting, and he does, the defense wins. And it's an open shot, and he misses it, defense wins. So I think that's what this club's doing. And so when Seth comes back, he's really going to make them close to elite defensively. The perimeter D is really good. They have great rim protection. Sometimes they get beat on the baseline. Zayden High needs to get better. He allowed a baseline dribble in the Georgetown game because he went and denied so hard that the Georgetown player ended up turning and sealing him. And it was almost like a screen and kept Zayden from stepping in on the baseline and stopping the drive. It was an easy baseline drive for a basket. So little things like that. That's what these next couple of guys. That's why he needs to play a lot, because Upstate and East Tennessee are going to try to run a lot of the same stuff, and he needs to do that. The only way he's going to do it is play. He needs to get some confidence with some of those things because they're going to put him in games. He's going to have to play. I don't think they're going to not play him anymore. They got to have a backup five. I could see him going to Caleb some. They don't really want to do that. I could see them trying Jaron. I think it would make a little bit of sense to do that, but they're 9 games in and they haven't tried him there yet. We've talked about Luka going the ball. We've seen that. We saw it some Sunday. So it wouldn't be a complete shock if at some point you turn, if you're at home, you turn the TV, or else we should come to a game to cover a game, and there's a lot of Luka on the ball. Well, we've seen him kind of head in that direction a little bit at times. Mm-hmm. And with Zayden, these are opportunities for him to get a lot better. And I don't think he was completely terrible in these games. I really wish people would stop hammering the kid the way that they are.
Yeah, that doesn't do it. That doesn't help anybody, does it?
When he messes up, he does it in such an awkward way. People are looking for it now. He had that ball he tried to save to hit the back of the backboard. And, there's people laughing and stuff, and I get it. But there's some things he does that help the team. And I have been told by multiple people in the program that sometimes he's the best player in practice. I trust these people. They're not BSing, because all that does is put a lot of pressure on him about why can't you transfer it to the court? Well, maybe he will, but maybe there's that psychological disconnect there from practice to the court. Well, play him 20 minutes against Upstate, have him see if he has some success there, and do the same thing against East Tennessee. And if you come out of that with a confident player who maybe isn't overthinking, which makes him slow and react improperly, suddenly you have a more instinctive player than maybe those 5 to 7 minutes he plays in ACC play, giving Henry a break, will be better minutes. Because that's the cool thing about the next few weeks and kind of where they are. We know a lot of the good stuff they have and how it can get better, and it all needs to get better, and I think will get better to a degree. But there are certain parts that they need to sort of get fit. I said earlier there's nothing to fix. I think Zayden needs to be fixed.
The backup 5 spot's been a concern all season before the season started.
So I was wrong about that. But Zayden needs to be fixed in that sense. It needs to be him. It's not James Brown. He needs to get all the minutes, not James Brown, because every minute that James is out there instead of Zayden is one less minute for Zayden to use to get better. And no slight to James at all, but I think that they got to choose one and allocate minutes to him and just work him to death. If this is baseball, he'd be in the batting cage 4 hours before the game before going out and taking BP. He just needs to make hacks as he can get, and this is that opportunity. So, Jacob, I really like what they've done these 4 games. They didn't beat any world beaters, but those are good wins, and those are wins that I'm not so sure last year's team would have looked as good beating those clubs. I'm not so sure 3 years ago, they would have won those games. I mean, that club was like, what, 4-4 at one point? So 5-5 after Virginia Tech. So I think this club's heading in the right direction. We've seen a lot of good stuff and a lot of room to get better, which is encouraging.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how much better they get on the defensive end too. Because I mean, I think they went to the Georgetown game with like 15th team. I think they were number 15 in the country in field goal percentage defense. They're 12th after the Georgetown game. And again, as we mentioned, they've done a lot of that without Seth Trimble. So it's like you bring him back into the mix, who's arguably your best defender. And we talked about this team expecting before the season to start to be a better defensive team. And man, this team could be a better defensive team by a stretch if he comes back in. And this team's kind of trajectory right now on that side of the ball continues the way it is. So yeah, like I said, I think there are just so many more positives about where this team is right now than there are negatives or things to pick at, despite there being some, glaring things that I think we'll still need to see continue to progress throughout the season. But yeah, you're getting through a tough 4-game stretch against NCAA tournament caliber teams, feeling pretty good about yourself and going 3-1. It's not a bad start to the season. 8-1 on the year, went over Kansas, went over St. Bonaventure, Kentucky, Georgetown. I mean, it has been a lot more enjoyable start to the season for Carolina fans than they have seen in some past years. I'll put it that way. So I think just enjoy it and maybe stop nitpicking every little negative thing out there. It's just enjoy where it's at right now, and we'll see how these other things continue to develop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but passionate fans do that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all do. Anybody's a fan of anybody does it. But, just enjoy it a little bit. So you can pick at those things, but just live in the moment a little bit more. We'll see how these other things continue to progress. There's some winnable games going up where I think you can develop the bench and some other things, and hopefully that's what we see. And then they'll dive into ACC play, and that's when things will really start picking up. So, yeah, man, I think it's a good place.
A win for us. I don't hear.
I heard for us. The squeaking came back about a minute and a half ago, and for about 30 seconds, I wanted to jump out of this window right here for a second, but then it went away. So hopefully that cart has been chucked out of the Smith Center, even though I hear it again. I want to know what that squeaky noise is. Now,
I need to apologize. After the three things from Kentucky, I said I was going to take a picture of the Judd's banner.
Oh, yeah.
I totally forgot.
Yeah, it's all
so I'll do that. If I find whatever's squeaking,
yeah, please.
I will take a photo of it and I will tweet it out.
Please do go do some investigative journalism about where that squeak is.
It's a very minimum. People will think, wait, what is that? I'll send it to you. I got to find out what's squeaking.
If it is I will
still got writing to do.
Trash can if that's what they need. I will happily buy them one.
Yeah, people know that we're not still in the arena like the next day. We recorded this right after the three.
Yeah, AJ is just been sitting there for 24 hours.
And it's I got 9:30 on a Sunday. I do want to get home by midnight. So
yeah, I think you've got a chance at that. Chance is doing.
Promise Kim that I would sit down, get my legs up, and go.
All right, well, if we're going to do that, we need to get the heck out of here, and I think we can. So I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Appreciate y'all sticking with us. Go watch Three Things if you haven't already, and getting involved in the comments as always. Like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell, too, so you know every single time we upload, and we will see y'all next time. Thanks, guys.